වීඩියෝ ඇමතුම්ද සමග මැසෙන්ජර් සේවාවන් රැසකට සහ POTV Go සඳහා නොමිලේ ඩේටා ශ්‍රී ලංකා ටෙලිකොම්.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජි රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, a day of trials. The Sri Lanka Navy exposed due to COVID-19 operations, while tragedy strikes 415th patient as miscarriage follows diagnosis. Safer ground. More Sri Lankan students arrive safe and sound back home thanks to government repatriation flights. Due praise. Japanese envoy commends Sri Lanka's COVID-19 fight in meeting with Defence Secretary. Coming up on First at 9, this Friday the 24th of April 2020.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
මේ 69යි 97ට SMS කර රුපියල් මිලියන 3ක මුල්තැන්ගේ උපකරණ දිනාගෙන අවුරුද්දෙම කුස්සිය ටයිම් සේව් කරගන්න.
Sri Lanka's 416th COVID-19 case was reported today, while tragedy struck the 415th patient, an expectant mother at the Dezoisa Maternity Hospital. In a tragic turn of events, the patient, a resident of Maradana, subsequently suffered complications with her pregnancy, which resulted in a miscarriage. Meanwhile, highlighting the threats to those on the front line of the country's COVID-19 battle, 30 more naval personnel tested positive today, in addition to yesterday's 30 cases, causing a spike in the country's total number of cases. At this moment, the total stands at 416, out of which 298 remain active cases being treated at healthcare facilities throughout the island. With 2 more patients recovering today, total recoveries edged up to 109. The country's COVID-19 cases spiked to 415 today, following the detection of another 30 cases at the Välisaari Navy base, in addition to the 29 naval personnel confirmed last evening, along with a further 16 civilian cases today. Further, the 415th case to be reported was an expectant mother at the Dezoisa Maternity Hospital who also suffered a tragic miscarriage. With that, Sri Lanka's active cases now stand at 298, along with 109 recoveries and another 173 patients currently under observation. Following the detection of the 29 naval personnel yesterday at the Gamunu Navy camp in Välisaari, the base has been placed under total quarantine on the orders of the Commander of the Navy, Vice Admiral Pial de Silva. The 59 Navy detections were made after sailors at the camp were subjected to PCR tests following the discovery of a sailor at the Välikanda Base Hospital in Polonnaruwa who tested positive for the virus after admitting himself following the onset of symptoms. Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva revealed that the Navy personnel had contracted the virus during a recent search operation for suspects in the Suduela area in Jayala. The Army Commander added that all naval personnel who had recently returned home on leave have been called back immediately and will also be subjected to PCR testing as well.
අපි දකින ආකාරයට මේක වුණේ අර නිමාඩුගේ පුද්ගලයන් නෙමෙයි නමුත් බට නිවාසයෙන් කෙනෙක්ගෙන් තමයි එයාටත් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. බට නිවාසයේ කට්ටිය ඇවිල්ලා අර සුදුවැල්ල ප්‍රදේශයේ මත්ද්‍රව්‍ය වලට ඇබ්බැහි වෙච්චලා හිටපු කට්ටිය නිරෝධායන මධ්‍යස්ථානයේ වෙත යොමු කිරීමටත් ඒ සමයදීව හුදකලා කිරීමටත් කටයුතු කරපු කණ්ඩායමක්. පමණක් නෙමෙයි මේ නිමාඩුගිය සියලුම දෙනාව වහාම ගෙන්වා ගැනීමට නාවික හමුදාපතිට උපදෙස් ලබා දීලා තිනවා අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමත් ආරක්ෂක ලේකම්තුමත්.
Meanwhile, the authorities have also been able to track the sailor's movements after his departure from the Välisaari base. Reportedly, after taking a Navy transport up to Ambepussa, the sailor, along with 3 other personnel, had travelled in a 3-wheeler up to the Alawa Bridge. From this point, the sailor, along with 3 others, had hitched a ride in a lorry heading to Dambulla and in Kurunegala had picked up 3 army personnel. From this group, 1 individual had gotten off at Malsiripura while another had disembarked at Galevilla. The remaining 6 personnel had then continued up to Dambulla, of which 1 had then travelled to Bakamuna in a 3-wheeler. From here on, the 5 remaining personnel had hitched another ride in a lorry belonging to a prominent rice mill and travelled towards the area of Minneria. 2 of the group had then proceeded towards Kakirava, while 1 other had gone on towards Anuradhapura. The infected sailor, upon arriving in Min area, had then taken a three-wheeler to Kirimatia and then proceeded on foot towards his residence. At home, the sailor had continued to engage in domestic duties such as accompanying his son for a haircut, visiting the local fair to purchase groceries, and a pharmacy as well. Following this, on the 20th of this month, the sailor had taken ill and visited a private hospital in the area of Lankapura for treatment, where he was advised to admit himself for treatment. Following his admittance to the Valikanda Base Hospital, tests confirmed his COVID-19 infection. After this, the driver of the lorry and his helper were subjected to PCR tests, while their families were placed under self-quarantine. Meanwhile, another sailor from the Välisaari Navy base, who went on leave and travelled to his hometown in Rakwana on the 22nd of this month, was also admitted to hospital. A PCR test was carried out on the patient following the onset of COVID-19 symptoms, while 37 residents from 7 households who had come into contact with him had been placed under self-quarantine by health officials. Another 6 sailors from the Välisaari base who went on leave to their residences in Gampola have been instructed to self-quarantine. It has been revealed that 1 sailor out of the 6 had travelled extensively in the area via a three-wheeler in the company of a police officer. Due to this, health authorities carried out disinfections of all police stations in the Gampola area as a precaution. Meanwhile, another sailor who returned home to the area of Rambava in Anuradhapura had displayed symptoms of the virus. Accordingly, he has been admitted to the Anuradhapura hospital, while his family has been placed in self-quarantine. A further 7 naval personnel in Ambilipitia, also attached to the Välisaari base, along with their families and other residents exposed to them, have been placed in self-quarantine by public health officials. In Radgama, 5 more naval personnel from the Välisaari base, who had also moved around in the area extensively, have been subjected to PCR tests. Following these revelations, the Sri Lankan Navy released a statement informing the general public that there was no need for undue fear from its personnel and that all personnel currently on leave have been ordered to stay in place until further notice. Meanwhile, a further 16 COVID-19 patients have been detected from the Bandaranaike Mawatha hotspot since yesterday, including 2 minors aged 16 and 13. Following this, 27 family members of 5 patients detected yesterday were transported to quarantine facilities last night. More family members of today's cases are expected to be quarantined today. Meanwhile, 11 patients discovered today have been admitted to the National Institute of Infectious Diseases, and with this detection, the number of COVID-19 patients from the area now stands at 81 since the 15th of this month.
වැඩිම රෝගීන් ප්‍රමාණයක් වාර්තා වූ 123 මැත්තෙන් 150 දෙනෙකු වමන තවදුරටත් පරීක්ෂාවට යොමු කිරීමට අප අදහස් කරගෙන සිටිනවා.
Following the detection of a COVID-19 infected fish trader last week, authorities had carried out PCR tests on 529 wholesale traders at the Paliagoda Central Fish Market, after which tests had shown none of them to have contracted the virus. In this backdrop, wholesale trade activities are set to recommence tomorrow at the market under strict health and safety regulations, following discussions held between health authorities, the police and traders.
පෑලියගොඩ මාළු මාකට් එකේ ඒ ගනු ලැබූ පරීක්ෂණ තහවුරු වුණා. ඒ 529ම ආසාදිත නොවන බවට ඒක අතවශ්‍යම අපිට ලොකු අස්වැසිල්ලක්.
Health authorities, meanwhile, have taken steps to collect biological samples from expectant mothers residing in the 5 isolated villages in the area of Beruela to determine if they have been exposed to the COVID-19 virus. The PCR test results of this group are due to arrive tomorrow. As per a decision taken by the area's medical officer of health, all expectant mothers from the area will be admitted to the Beruela Base Hospital as a precautionary measure even their test results come back negative.
Negative report ආවතින් අපි මේ negative report අදාළ සියලු ගර්භණී මාතාවන් අපි ඇතුළත් කරනවා බේරුවල මූලික රෝහලට. බේරුවල මූලික රෝහලේ ඇතුළත් කොට ඔවුන් නේවාසිකව එම ස්ථානයේ තබා ඔවුන්ගේ ප්‍රසවයට ඉතාම ආසන්න වූාට පසුව මේ දිස්ත්‍රික් මහා රෝහල වෙත රැගෙන යාම සිදු කරනවා. හදිසියවත් එම ගර්භණී මාතාවන්ගෙන් එක මාතාවක් positive report එකක් ලැබුණොත් අපි එම මාතාව අපි ඇතුළත් කරනවා මුල් ඒරියාව මූලික රෝහලට.
Meanwhile, Director General of Health Services Dr. Anil Jasinga says that the frequency of PCR tests has been increased island-wide, with 1,142 tests having been carried out yesterday.
මේක ගත්තොත් එහෙම සතියකට සාමාන්‍ය අගය ගන්නවා නම් මේ ඔබට පේනවා මුල් අවස්ථාවේදී ඉතාම අඩුවෙන් කෙරිලා පසුව ගිහිලා මේ ගිය සුමානේ වෙනකොට ඒ සුමානේ සාමාන්‍ය අගය 531ක් වෙනවා. එතකොට දැන් මේ සතියේ ගත්තොත් එහෙම මේක මං හිතන්නේ 700 වෙයි. මොකද පහුගිය දින ටිකේම 700ක අගයක් අරන් තියෙනවා මේ පරීක්ෂණ කිරීම. ඊයේ තමයි ඒක එතනින් ඉහළට ගිහිල්ලා එකවර 1142ක් වැනි සංඛ්‍යාවක් මේ පරීක්ෂණ ලක් කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
කොරෝනා වෛරසයේ පැතිරීම වළක්වන්න සබන් යොදා දෑත් සෝදන්න.
Now, many countries, in fact almost all countries around the world, are urging people to stay indoors as the battle against the COVID-19 pandemic seems to intensify. Now, with that, the use of social media also saw a considerable rise. Now, given their vast popularity, the question is, what can they do, social media as well as messaging apps? What can they do to fight or actually help in the fight against global pandemic? To discuss this very topic, we have Viber's Senior Director for Asia Pacific region, Anubhav Nair, joining us live. Good evening, Anubhav. How are you?
Good evening. I'm very well. Thank
now,
you.
let's start off with some numbers. I mean, has there been any change in consumer usage from your end? Now, has there been an increase or decrease during this period of pandemic?
Well, actually, there has been a significant increase in excess of 50% across most of our key parameters like messaging, calling, etc. And it doesn't come as a surprise to us. We see that trend across the world as more and more people are adhering to social distancing, staying at home, and wanting to be in touch with their family, friends, and loved ones.
Now, I have to ask you, what is the role as you see it, of messaging apps in actually fighting a global pandemic such as this? What is your role?
Yeah, I think there are two very important areas which messaging apps such as Viber can help in. I think there's a lot of information that is sort of going around, and we have worked with various organizations, various bodies, such as the World Health Organization at the global level, and also with the Health Bureau in Sri Lanka, to ensure that we provide an official channel which can provide authentic and trustworthy information. So it provides all users out there, everybody in Sri Lanka, the opportunity to get access to a source that is completely trustworthy and is not really a rumor. And at the same time, while this is happening, we also want to ensure that we're providing a very fast, reliable experience where we can connect multiple people together.
Now, you spoke about reliability and connecting multiple people. Now, one of the adverse effects experienced during this pandemic, let's talk about Sri Lanka. We've had a lot of misinformation, and the government is trying to crack down on that. So, what is Viber doing to mitigate the circulation of misinformation? Is Viber screening user content by any at all?
It's difficult for Viber to screen user content because it's end-to-end encrypted. But I think one of the challenges, or rather one of the advantages that Viber has, is that it's not really a broadcasting platform like other social media. So we don't see too many challenges happening for us. But what we have done from our side is, when we're working with the Health Bureau, we have aggressively pushed from our side also and sent out a message to all our users, asking them all to follow that community, because that will probably be the most trustworthy source of information that people can get. And the benefit is that when people do follow that, they can also share the latest updates and any precautions that they need to with their friends and family.
Now, you said you've sent messages to your users, urging them to actually sort of stay clean, as it were, right? But is that really effective? I mean, you're placing a lot of faith on your consumer base to actually keep the content clean when it comes to misinformation.
Yeah, I mean, we've actually seen some fantastic numbers over the course of, I would say, maybe the last 8 to 10 days. We've have in excess of 310,000 members already only in Sri Lanka. And that's a big number, because these are the people who have subscribed. And what that means is that these 310,000 people will also be sharing information that they see on this community with their friends and family. And therefore, this number actually goes into millions if you think about it. So, I think at this time we've seen that people in Sri Lanka also are being fairly responsible, and we've seen that when we send this message across to a lot of users, a lot of people have chosen to subscribe to it, which is a very, very good sign for the country also.
Okay. Now, Viber recently has been actively working across many local government organizations like HBP and maybe WHO as well. Now, can you elaborate on the partnerships and how do they work? I mean, what's the process?
Yeah. So I think, like I said, the central part of all these partnerships is to ensure that we're providing trustworthy and reliable information. It's not us who's providing it, but the local designated body or the World Health Organization. Viber's responsibility is of being a platform. So in some cases, we have a community. Even in Sri Lanka, we have one in partnership with the government body. And what that community does is that everybody in Sri Lanka can follow that community, join that community, and get the latest updates. But in addition to that, what we've also done, say, with the World Health Organization is to launch a bot, which provides not only the latest information, but provides a complete list of myths and realities, just predominantly driving consumer education in an interesting way so that people realize that what is true and what may just not be very, very true.
Well, Anubhav, that's all the time we have, unfortunately, but thank you very much for joining us. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Now, moving on with other local news, 76 Sri Lankans who are stranded in Nepal was brought back to the country today under the government's repatriation program. Now, since Tuesday, similar operations have seen 290 Sri Lankans being returned to the island.
නිෂ්පාදිත දිනය කවදත් අලුත් වටවල තේ අරගන්න.
වටවල තේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ තේ එක.
The government launched a special program to repatriate Sri Lankan students stranded in foreign countries amid the COVID-19 outbreak. Under its first stage, 113 Sri Lankans were brought to Sri Lanka from Pakistan on Tuesday, while a further 101 who were studying in India were repatriated yesterday. They were then directed to the facility in Punani for the mandatory 14-day quarantine. Under the program's latest stage, 76 more students were brought to the country today from Nepal aboard a Sri Lankan Airlines aircraft UL-1425 around 3:25 this afternoon. There are more Sri Lankans stranded in various countries and are expectant to returning to the country. Among them are a group of 19 students stranded in the city of Moscow in Russia, with another group stuck in Malaysia. There is also a video in circulation on social media of a group of Sri Lankans stranded in the Middle East, with them also having lost their employment. Touching on the matter of repatriation, Minister of Civil Aviation Prasanna Ranatunga had this to say.
දැන් පිටරටවල ලංකාවට එන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන අයට වෙබ්සයිට් එකවල දාලා ඒ අයව දැනුවත් කරලා තියෙනවා ඒ රටවල තියෙන තානාපති කාර්යාලවල ලියාපදිංචි වෙන්න කියලා. ඒ ලියාපදිංචි වුණායින් පස්සේ ඒ අය විදේශ කටයුතු අමාත්‍යාංශයත් එක්ක සම්බන්ධීකරණය කරනවා. ඊට පස්සේ ඒ අයගේ ලේඛන අරගෙන ටාස්ක් ෆෝස් එකට යොමු කරලා ඒ රටවල් අනුව ප්‍රමුඛතාව අධ්‍යාපනයේ සඳහා ගිය දරුවන්ව ගෙන්න ගන්න. ඊට පස්සේ සේවයට ගිය අයට අවශ්‍යතාවය අනුව ගේන්න. නමුත් ඒකට ටාස්ක් ෆෝස් එකේ අනුමැතියත් අරගෙන සිවිල් ඒවියේෂන් ඔතොරිටි එකේ අනුමැතිය අරගෙන ඒ අදාළ ගුවන් යානාවලට විතරක් ලංකාවට එන්න අවසර දෙනවා. ඒ අය විතරයි අපි ඇතුළට ගන්නේ.
The entire country is now under lockdown in line with the government's early announcement of the curfew being in effect across the island over the weekend. In 21 districts where a window of free movement was given from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. today, the curfew will be in effect until Monday. With the number of COVID-19 positive cases seeing a spike, questions linger over when the curfew could be safely lifted. The police, however, say the answer to that question depends on the conduct of the people. The curfew was lifted at 5 a.m. today in all the districts except Colombo, Gampaha, Putlam and Kalutara. With the daily relaxation of the curfew in 21 districts, the government has been urging members of the public to cooperate in curbing the spread of COVID-19 by adhering to the safety guidelines during windows of free movement. With that being the case, several buses which operated disregarding safety guidelines came under police scrutiny. Furthermore, three-wheelers were seen transporting more than the stipulated number of passengers in gross violation of the safety protocols. Although the maximum number of passengers was set at 2 for three-wheelers, in some cases 4 were transported. The government had also made the wearing of face masks in public mandatory as a measure to minimise the spread of COVID-19. As such, Hemmatagama police gave the matter special attention, cracking down on people and traders who fail to wear masks. During the inspection, police arrested a person for obstructing the duty of a journalist. These inspections are not limited to a particular locality and were worked off countrywide to ensure that people do not violate safety protocols put in place by health authorities. In a separate development, at a time when movements are restricted, bus drivers allege that people reach Hatton by walking along the railway track from Colombo to Avisavella and then taking the bus from Avisavella to the Hatton depot. Colombo is still under lockdown as it is a COVID-19 high-risk zone. Although that is the case, heavy traffic was witnessed in some areas in the district today. Similar was seen in Paliagoda, which comes under the Gampaha district, which is also a high-risk zone. Ever since the curfew was first brought into effect on the 20th of March, police have made 36,787 arrests for offences related to curfew violation. They have also seized 9,423 vehicles during the process. Meanwhile, the curfew, which was relaxed in 21 districts in the morning, was reimposed at 8 p.m. With the President's Media Division announcing that the entire country will be under curfew over the weekend, the curfew in those 21 districts will be in effect until 5 a.m. on Monday the 27th. The government, however, is yet to announce any further details on the curfew.
අද රාත්‍රී 8ට පනවන ඇඳිරි නීතිය නැවත සඳුදා පාන්දර 5 දක්වා ලංකාවේ සියලුම ප්‍රදේශවල බලපැවැත්වෙනවා. ඒ අනුව සෙනසුරාදා දිනය ඉරිදා දිනය ලංකාව පුරාම ඇඳිරි නීති තත්ත්වය පෙර පරිදිම ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම එක් දිස්ත්‍රික්කයකින් තව දිස්ත්‍රික්කයකට යාමට හැකියාවක් ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. තවදුරටත් ඒ පිළිබඳව මාර්ග බාධක වලින් සොයා බලනවා. ඒ වගේම පොලිස් වසම් ආශ්‍රිතවත් අකණ්ඩ මාර්ග බාධක සහ ජංගම සංචාර ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙනවා. මාර්තු 11 වෙනිදාට පෙර හිටපු තත්ත්වයට යනවාද රට විවෘත වෙන්නේ කොහොමද කියන එක තීරණය වෙන්නේ ඔබගේ සහයෝගය ඒ වගේම ඔබගේ යුතුයකම වගකීම ඉටු කිරීම මත.
One of the key challenges facing each household during the curfew is keeping the spirits of the family members high, with health experts saying that 1 in 4 persons suffer from depression even during normal circumstances. Mental well-being during lockdown is key. With that in mind, the Triforces and the police yet again went about entertaining people, especially those living in apartment complexes located in several areas in Colombo. Their efforts in this regard, in addition to the services rendered in curbing the virus outbreak, must be commended. Now, institutions engaged in providing essential services have taken measures to strictly adhere to safety guidelines of the health authorities when conducting their activities. With that, services were worked off successfully for another day across the country. But not all vendors played by the book, as food consignments unfit for human consumption was also discovered by authorities.
In consideration of the prevailing coronavirus situation in the country, the operations at the Migoda Economic Centre will be conducted under 2 stages. The period from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. will be allocated for small-scale wholesale buyers, while the period from 12 p.m. to midnight will be for large-scale wholesale buyers. What's more, people will not be allowed to enter the market premises without a face mask. In the meantime, a businessman from the Migoda Economic Centre, who had sold a consignment of potatoes and onions unfit for human consumption, was arrested by public health inspectors yesterday. PHIs of Homagama discovered a 3,000 kilo stock of potatoes and onions unsuitable for consumption on the 10th of this month. As a court order was being delivered to destroy the stock in question on the 19th, the businessman had taken measures to sell them. The suspect was produced before the Homagama Magistrates Court today, and he was remanded until the 5th of May. Elsewhere in the area of Ranmuduwewa in Suriwewa, locals charged that the Grama Seva officer in charge of the area had distributed the government's 5,000 rupee relief allowance arbitrarily. They charged that those who deserved the allowance had been overlooked. People in the Grama Seva division of Galundu OPT and Valisara also protested, claiming that they hadn't received the 5,000 rupee allowance even after submitting appeals. However, large queues could be seen across the country, with people waiting to obtain the allowance. In a separate development, the Sri Lanka Ayurvedic Drugs Corporation launched 5 products which are designed to combat COVID-19. The event worked off under the patronage of Minister of Health Pavitra Wanyarachi. Meanwhile, the program implemented by Ceylon Fertilizer Company to distribute fertilizer to farmers through agrarian service centres is also underway. Nearly 300 lorries are operating daily in accordance with safety guidelines. As per the instructions of the Commander of the Air Force, Air Marshal Sumangala Dias, the No. 8 Light Transport Squadron of the Ratmalana Air Force Base has refurbished a Y-12 aircraft into an air ambulance for the treatment of critically ill patients. In the meantime, the Association of Small and Medium Garment Exporters says that they are severely inconvenienced due to the suspension of orders from foreign countries. In another development, the Attorney General has sought approval from the competent authorities to commence work at the Attorney General's department. This request came after PCR tests performed on the private security officers at the department confirmed that they are not COVID-19 positive.
We will see you again on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, Sri Lanka's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic has come under praise from Japan. The sentiments have been expressed when Deputy Head of Mission of the Japanese Embassy, Toshishiro Katamura, met with Defense Secretary Major General Kamal Gunaratne today. The Japanese government has commended the role of the military and police in supporting the health authorities to combat the coronavirus in Sri Lanka. Deputy Head of Mission of the Japanese Embassy, Toshishiro Kitamura, has said that his country appreciates Sri Lanka's efforts taken to control the spread of coronavirus when he met Defense Secretary Major General Kamal Gunaratne at the ministry today. Kitamura has said that in Japan, which has a death toll of 360, the government has requested people to stay at home and no curfew was imposed to control the spread of the virus. Explaining Sri Lanka's present situation, the Defense Secretary noted that the government had applied the route bolt system, which will evacuate all possible contact links of coronavirus-infected patients in respective areas. The Defense Secretary said that had the task of controlling the spread of the virus solely been given to the health authorities, it would have reached an uncontrollable point. While acknowledging the use of intelligence agencies in tracing those who have close links to coronavirus positives, he said the military and police first analysed the cluster of virus-infected people, their behaviour and their close links before locking down a village or an area. The Defense Secretary and Deputy Head of Mission Kitamura discussed strengthening defense relations, especially improving naval capabilities of the Sri Lanka Navy and Sri Lanka Coast Guards, which are heavily engaged in combating drug smuggling and human trafficking. Now, in other local news, Sri Lanka Computer Emergency Readiness Team for Cyber Security Issues warns of a high threat pertaining to free internet data scams and urges the public to be cautious when responding to these scam messages. It says that these messages can be sent via SMS, WhatsApp and Viber, claiming to offer free data for the customer. SLCERT goes on to say that these offers pretend to come from well-known organizations or brands to gain the user's trust, and that the messages are part of a click fraud, which is a monetization scheme that relies on racking up bogus clicks that brings revenue to the scam operators. SLCERT says that websites behind these scams might change into phishing sites at any time, and users could lose sensitive data and also online accounts. Now, AdaDerana have always taken the lead when it comes to helping people in distress. As usual, it successfully conducted its relief program to support people who are undergoing hardships brought on by the curfew. What's more, AdaDerana is also providing vital medical gear to designated hospitals which treat COVID-19 patients.
AdaDerana launched a relief program for the people feeling the pressure brought on by the curfew in partnership with Dialogue. The program saw essential goods being donated to religious establishments, such as temples, to be distributed among the public. The program is also supported by the staff of the Valikara prison. AdaDerana, together with Dialogue, will continue to extend this relief service to people who are in need. What's more, AdaDerana also launched a program to donate medical equipment to hospitals which treat COVID-19 patients in collaboration with LOSC Holdings. Accordingly, medical equipment was provided to the Jaffna Teaching Hospital.
Teaching Hospital Jaffna is functioning in the northern province, and especially we are diagnosing COVID-19 cases, and at the same time we are treating all emergency and other care facilities. Therefore, using personal protective equipment during this period is very, very important. Today we got some equipment from AdaDerana and LOLC. Therefore, I would like to thank them for their kind donation to our hospital.
The provision of medical equipment by AdaDerana in partnership with LOLC Holdings will continue, meeting the needs of hospitals during these trying times.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Colombo Stock Exchange, Rajiv Bandaranaike, has inquired about the possibility of resuming normal trading operations of the Colombo stock market from the Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka. Accordingly, the SEC has met yesterday in order to discuss this matter thoroughly, and their unanimous conclusion has been that if it is to properly consider the feasibility of reopening the stock market for trading under the present circumstances, the SEC added that it is imperative to satisfy itself that the SEC is able to ensure that all operational requirements that are necessary for the stock market to function in a fair and orderly manner can be maintained. In a letter to the Colombo Stock Exchange, SEC's Director General Chintaka Mendis stated that the CSC has to carefully identify all operations requirements, including issues of settlement, and spell out in detail the means by which the CSC intends to resolve them. And it is also important for the CSC to consider the interests of all stakeholders in this exercise and the importance of such decisions being made at a meeting of the Board of Directors of CSC. We will see you again after this break. Don't go away. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.